Hi YouTubers, welcome to part 2 of my homemade vases. And in the last episode I was talking about turning this piece of wood on the lathe I got from the woods. And because it's such bad weather outside with high winds and rain at the moment, this video will be a 3-part video. And so I'm leaving this for the time being because I'm going to make a pot or something out of this. But I'll talk about how I made these vases. Now, they're made from scrap wood. And the wood I used was basically old kitchen work surfaces I was given. And here's a piece that's been turned into a chopping board, and what it is an oak block work surface which was originally cut out from where a sink and draining board was fitted. So the oak blocks were obviously already glued together, and it was basically scrap. So I thought I'd use it to make different things, and the first thing I made was some wooden bowls. I'll just show you, here's one, and it's made from this material here, this oak block work surface. And what I very simply did is I cut a square to start with of wood, and then I cut the corners off and cut it as round as possible. I then put it on my small lathe. You can see there's 4 holes there where it was screwed onto the lathe, and I just made these bowls from this scrap wood. But I also made these vases from this wood, and they have been turned on the lathe, but to make life easier I used hole saws, and I'll just show you what I mean by that. I've got a set of these hole saws, and I'll just get the man drill with the centre bit, and I have a centre drill in the middle. And I started with a large hole saw, and I drilled it out, and it won't, because of the thickness, it wouldn't go all the way through, so I've done it top to bottom using the pilot, I think they call them man drills, I'm not sure. That goes in there. So I cut it out top and bottom. Now it was done with a pillar drill, and I cut like wheels out. So that's the first thing. So you can imagine I've now got a wheel of wood this size. The next step, using the next one of these, again, the wheel I had has then got a hole in the middle. I'll then use a hole saw and cut that top and bottom, so I end up with a polo shaped piece of wood, and that's what I used to make these. So you can imagine this is the polo shaped, that's the top cutter, this is the second cutter, you can see it fits in there. So I ended up with, excuse the noise, polo shaped pieces of wood, and there's 1, 2, 3. The bottom one hasn't got a hole in it, because this obviously leaves a hole. So what I did, I used the hole saw without the mandrel. You know, you can take this drill out. So I've got a disc. So I ended up with 3 polo shaped pieces of wood, and the bottom bit doesn't have the pilot hole for the cutter. I then glued them together, but because I had a lathe, you can see there's a hole there, a very small pinhole centre line. I then turned it down on the lathe, and so all these polos were glued together. So it ended up as a big pot. But if you haven't got a lathe, you can still make these if you have a flat piece of wood. But you do need a very, very flat piece of wood like this to make sure that each one of these sections fits on top. Now, depending on what you're going to use the pots for, it will depend on the glue you use. And you just clamp it together, and then you can see you end up with that, and then it's just varnished. So you can make these without a lathe, you know, sat inside. Now then, when you start cutting this, you're obviously left with the centerpiece you've took out, you know, like another wheel. Well, what you can do, so you've cut that and that to make a polo mint. Now with the section, you end up with a piece of wood like that, and what you do then is you do the same again. You cut the piece of wood that's come out of here with another smaller hole saw like that, and then you end up with another set of polo mint shaped pieces of wood, and then you cut the centre out like that. So you end up with a small pot. You can see where I'm coming from, where you've got the hole saws, and then you finally end up with, just drop these in, let's put these together, and then you can see what I'm referring to. You can see, let's hold it there, you can see does it gets smaller and smaller, so you can end up not wasting any wood, and you end up with these, and you can see where the saw has cut down halfway, and then when I sawed from underneath like that, and that's where the centre drill goes. Now I run out of wood, so I just use a bit of hazel on the bottom, and you can see that gives you several nice pots, and you don't need a lathe to do it. Now if you have got a lathe, you can then turn yourself a scrap piece of wood, a blank, so that you can put that in there and then hold it in the lathe, each end to turn, just a scrap piece of wood, so it just sits, you know, on the spikes in the lathe like that. But so you can do this without a lathe, you can make nice pots, but as I've got a lathe I thought I'd do it. And the finished article, let's move that away. This is what I ended up with. And this one, I've got one of these smelly oil things, and it sits inside the pot like that. Hope that makes sense. And you know, I'll show you now a few of the other bits and pieces I've actually made on the lathe. Now this is just bits and pieces I've made from scrap wood, and I've turned these individual mushrooms from hazel and I think this is a scrap bit of mahogany. I'm not sure what the other wood is, and this bit of wood they're standing on is just something I found in the woods. Two candlestick holders, and you can see they're just basically square, and I bored the hole in the middle. And this was mahogany that was left over from my front door frame. Two candlestick holders. Also made a pair of egg cups from some scrap bits of wood. Two egg cups, very basic design, very simple. Already talked about the bowls made from the oak block work surface, the same as the vases. And this was made from hazel, from the woods. And you can see part of the grain, the bark still left on. And lastly, because it was coming up to Christmas, made a load of these snowmen. Excuse me, that's my phone in the background. And these were made on the lathe, and these are just made from pine, lying around, and you spin it up top and bottom, and the lathe, the hat, the head obviously. This is a one piece, and then you just drill a hole to put a bit of wood in as a nose, and cut the eyes out with a Stanley knife, a craft knife. Just paint it, and then it's just a scrap bit of wood for a base. So really that's it for this part 2 of the video. As I say, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this piece of wood on the lathe, but it's blowing a gale outside and raining, and so part 3 might be in a few weeks' time. I should be doing something with this. I might make a small pot or something. Don't know yet. Depends if it cracks, because it's not seasoned wood. It's just green wood. It's drying out in the house already. But thanks for watching so far. Hope you enjoyed this video. And as I say, you know, if you've got hole cutters and things like that, it's surprising what you can make with a little bit of thought, you know, and experimentation. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate comments, and please leave feedback and subscribe.